A hard story to tell, but it ends with a Southern Colorado family finally getting closure. The remains of a teenager missing for the last 7 years have been found.
Joshua Maddux was 18 when he vanished in May of 2008.
All these mixed feelings because we did hold out a lot of hope.
His sister Ruth says Josh left one day and never said why.
Woodland Park, Colorado, a quiet mountain town where life moves slowly beneath the shade of tall pines and winding dirt roads. Locals described it as peaceful, almost untouched by time, a place where danger felt like something that happened somewhere else. But beneath that calm surface, a story was waiting, a story that would haunt the town for years to come. In 2008, a young man named Joshua Maddux stepped out of his home for a walk and vanished without a trace. No warning, no signs of him. He was simply gone. His disappearance would leave his family in a state of quiet agony, clinging to hope, refusing to believe that Joshua, a free spirit who loved the woods, could simply disappear so close to home. 7 years later, in 2015, an abandoned cabin stood quietly on the outskirts of Woodland Park, surrounded by overgrown brush and silence. It was a forgotten structure that blended into the forest like a relic of a different era. Demolition crews stepped inside, prepared to tear it down and erase what was left of it. But what they found would turn a missing persons case into one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in modern true crime. Inside the chimney of that cabin, they discovered human remains. Wedged deep inside, curled in a position no one could explain, was the body of Joshua Maddux. And with that discovery came questions, dark, unsettling questions that still have no clear answer to this day. It was May 8, 2008. The morning was calm, sunlight filtering through the trees, and the cool mountain air carrying the faint scent of pine. That morning, 18-year-old Joshua told his sister he was heading out for a walk, something he did often. He had no backpack, no supplies, just himself. For Joshua, wandering through the woods was a form of peace. He played guitar, wrote music, and his friends described him as a gentle soul with a thoughtful nature. He had dreams of one day traveling, maybe making music. For now, he found comfort in the quiet trails outside his home. When Joshua didn't return, his family didn't panic right away. He was known to wander, to sit by the river, or hike a little longer than expected. But as the hours passed and daylight began to fade, that calm turned into quiet dread. His father searched the woods first, calling out his name, hoping to hear a response through the trees. Then neighbors joined. Flyers went up around town bearing Joshua's smiling face. Search teams walked mile after mile, their flashlights cutting through the darkness at night. But there was no trace, not a piece of clothing, not a footprint, not a single clue indicating where he had gone. In small towns, disappearances don't stay quiet. Rumors circulate, theories form, and fear slowly creeps in. Some believed Joshua had simply decided to leave, to start a new life somewhere else, free from expectations and small-town limits. But his family refused to believe that. Joshua didn't take his guitar, he didn't take any money, and he didn't say goodbye. The forest around Woodland Park stood silent, as if holding on to a secret. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and eventually time did every walk past his empty room was a reminder that something wasn't right. He had walked into the woods, and it felt like the forest had simply swallowed him whole. 7 years later, in August 2015, a local builder named Chuck Murphy returned to a property he owned just a few miles from Joshua's home. It was an old log cabin that had once been used as a rental, but over time it had fallen into disrepair. Vandals had broken windows, wildlife had made its way inside, and the structure was slowly collapsing under the weight of time. Murphy had made the decision to tear it down. He sent workers inside to prepare the site for demolition. As they pried up floorboards and knocked loose old fixtures, a foul odor began to spread through the cabin. At first, the crew assumed it was an animal that had gotten trapped inside the walls or beneath the floor. In abandoned cabins, that wasn't unusual. But as they traced the smell, they were led to the fireplace. Something felt wrong. One of the workers removed a panel, and the moment the bricks were disturbed, the air shifted. That's when they saw it. Bones. Human bones. Curled tightly in a chimney shaft that measured only 11 by 14 inches wide. Too narrow for a person to enter comfortably. Too confined for anyone to position themselves in such a way voluntarily. The remains were lodged just above the fireplace opening, knees pulled toward the chest, arms bent awkwardly. It was a position that felt unnatural, more like someone forced into place rather than someone who had climbed down. There were no shoes on the body. Those were found near the fireplace, neatly placed. Then came the detail that froze everyone who heard it. The clothing on the body appeared to be on backwards. The pants were reversed. The shirt was twisted. It made no sense. Authorities were called immediately, and the cabin, once forgotten, became the center of a forensic mystery that would echo through the town like a specter. When investigators confirmed the identity through dental records, the name hit everyone like a slow, heavy impact. It was Joshua Maddux. The boy who had left for a walk and vanished without a trace had been just a short distance away all this time, hidden inside a chimney of a cabin that had stood silently in the woods, decaying around him. When law enforcement arrived, they walked the perimeter of the cabin, looking for any signs of forced entry, struggle, or clues that could explain how Joshua ended up where he did. But the cabin was sealed. The windows were intact. There were no signs that anyone had recently broken in. The chimney itself was narrow and lined with rough brick, making it nearly impossible to slide down without injury. Investigators noted that anyone entering from the top would have likely torn skin, left traces of hair or fibers, or scraped the walls. But there was almost nothing. No blood, no clear signs of trauma. Just the skeletal remains of a young man, positioned in a way that defied logic. The initial theory from investigators was grim but simple. Joshua had climbed onto the roof, perhaps as a dare or out of curiosity, attempted to enter the cabin through the chimney, got stuck, and died. It was labeled a tragic accident, but as more details emerged, that explanation began to crumble. The chimney had a metal grate installed on top of it back when the cabin was still in use. Locals confirmed it. That grate would have made it impossible for someone to enter from above. And even if somehow it had been removed, how would Joshua have managed to maneuver himself in headfirst, feet last, then end up in a fetal position facing downward? The scenario didn't line up with the physical reality of the space. His shoes being removed and placed near the fireplace raised more questions. Why would someone take off their shoes before climbing into a chimney? And why were his clothes reversed? Investigators began to consider the possibility that Joshua had been placed there, not by accident, but intentionally. As the forensic team reviewed the remains, they found no signs of blunt force trauma, no bullet wounds, no stab marks, nothing to clearly indicate murder. But the absence of evidence wasn't the same as evidence of absence. The official cause of death spoke of confinement and silence. The idea that he might have been alive inside that chimney, conscious and trapped, unable to call for help, lingered like a cold shadow over the investigation. With no clear answers, Woodland Park found itself divided between two unsettling beliefs. Either Joshua had suffered a horrific accident no one could explain, or something far darker had taken place inside that cabin. As news of the discovery spread through the town, old rumors began to surface. People started piecing together fragments of memory, trying to make sense of something senseless. One name kept circulating in hushed conversations: Andy Newell. Andy had been an acquaintance of Joshua's, someone who had spent time with the same friend circles, a familiar face in Woodland Park. But Andy had a reputation. He was known for erratic behavior, for pushing boundaries, for bragging in ways that unsettled people. Some locals recalled hearing Andy once joke about putting someone in a chimney. At the time, it was brushed off as dark humor. After Joshua was found, that comment took on a chilling new meaning. But Andy Newell could not be questioned. He had died before Joshua's body was discovered. Without him, the theory remained nothing more than speculation. No physical evidence tied him to the scene. No eyewitnesses placed him near the cabin. It became one of those stories that floats around small towns, whispered, never confirmed, but held onto by those who needed a villain in a story without one. Then there was another theory. Some believed Joshua had sought shelter in the cabin, climbed down the chimney to escape the cold, and become trapped. But that theory ignored key details: the grate, the backward clothing, the removed shoes, the contorted position. It didn't explain why Joshua, a calm and level-headed young man, would choose a chimney as an entry point when the door was only a few steps away. The more investigators looked at the possibilities, the more each one seemed to unravel under scrutiny. The local coroner maintained there was no evidence of foul play. But for Joshua's family, the absence of proof did not equal peace. His father spoke publicly about his belief that something had happened to his son, something intentional. The cabin, once an unremarkable structure hidden in the woods, became a symbol of unanswered questions. And as the case faded from headlines, the mystery only grew heavier, pressing down on the people who knew Joshua and on a town that could not shake the feeling that something had gone terribly, terribly wrong. As time passed, the story of the cabin began to fracture into two realities: what was officially known and what the locals believed. Official records described the cabin as an abandoned structure, a place teenagers once snuck into for late-night gatherings before it was fully sealed. But longtime residents remembered something very specific about it. Before it fell into decay, the Murphy family had installed a heavy metal grate over the top of the chimney to keep animals from getting in. If that grate was still there in 2008, when Joshua went missing, then entering from above would have been impossible without removing it. And when investigators examined the site in 2015, the grate was no longer present. It had vanished without any documentation or explanation. No one could say when it was removed or by whom. This detail cast a long shadow over the official explanation. If Joshua did not climb in, then someone else was involved. And if someone else placed him there, then the case was no longer a tragic accident. It was something darker. But because years had passed, decomposition had erased the small details forensic teams rely on to build a narrative. Soft tissue was gone. Signs of restraint, suffocation, or internal trauma were no longer detectable. Even time of death could not be accurately pinpointed beyond a broad window. All that remained was the positioning of the body, the shoes by the fireplace, and the reversed clothing. Clues that hinted at something unnatural but refused to speak clearly. Forensic experts debated whether Joshua could have survived for hours or even days inside that narrow space. If he had entered willingly and become stuck, he may have struggled, his voice muffled by brick and isolation. The thought of a young man calling out for help in an empty forest left the town suspended between closure and conspiracy. Without a conclusive answer, every theory remained possible, and every possibility brought a different kind of grief. Today, the story of Joshua Maddux lingers like a cold breath over Woodland Park. The cabin where he was found has since been demolished, erased from the landscape as if removing the structure could remove the memory. But even without the physical place, the image remains. An abandoned chimney in the woods, holding a secret for 7 long years while search parties passed nearby, and his family prayed for answers that never came. Joshua's family described him as a dreamer, a young man who expressed himself through music. He had written songs, played guitar, and filled quiet rooms with gentle melodies that made people stop and listen. To many, it felt cruel that someone so alive with creativity could vanish into a silence so absolute. In the end, his story became more than a missing persons case. It became a reminder of something deeply unsettling, that a person can disappear not in a distant city or dangerous place, but within steps of home, hidden not by clever planning or elaborate crime, but by time, neglect, and the indifferent stillness of abandoned places. As years pass, new true crime enthusiasts discover the case, piecing together fragments, analyzing every decision, every piece of evidence, every rumor. Some believe Joshua's death was a tragic accident born from curiosity. Others remain convinced he was the victim of something sinister, hidden in plain sight, and never brought to justice. The truth remains lodged somewhere between those walls of old brick and memory, somewhere in the narrow space of the chimney where Joshua spent his final moments. In the quiet mountains of Colorado, the trees continue to sway in the wind, just as they did the day Joshua walked into the woods. And for those who remember him, the forest no longer feels like a place of peace. It feels like a question that will never be answered. Sometimes the most haunting mysteries are not the ones filled with violence or clear evidence of evil. Sometimes the most unsettling stories are the ones where the truth is close enough to touch, but forever just out of reach. Like a voice calling from deep inside a chimney, fading into silence before anyone knew